So in 3 months, this channel will be 2 years old. Holy crap! Where did the time go? I can't believe how fast the hourglass has been running these last 2 years of my life. Right now, I'm on track to get the same level of subscriber growth I had last year. But come on guys, let's push beyond that. Let's try to get to 10K by August. We can do it. To that end, I'm going to do what I don't normally do, and bother you guys at the start of my videos to please, if you enjoyed these videos by the end, consider subscribing. And thumbs up or thumbs down the video. Either works. It might seem silly, but I'm not kidding when I say enough clicks on that little button can easily get me double the views on a video and double the subscribers. And I'm going to ask you all for your help as well. If you have friends you think may be interested, show them these videos. If you are in a conversation with someone online about one of these figures, back up your arguments with one of my videos. Make memes. Show them to me too, I'd love to see what you got. Post them on your other online communities. It is only with your help that I will be able to reach the goal of 10K by the end of the year and finally be able to do the subscriber special I've waited my entire channel to make. Oh yes, at 10K, what's the best Grimlock? Remember, I'm someone who owns almost every Grimlock. That's going to be a good one. That's going to be the best one. This time, we are going to do a What's the Best on 2 waves. Why? Because the last 2 waves of Kingdom were fucking stupid, and between the 2 of them, there are only 7 figures to talk about, despite including the dregs of what's coming in the next line. And you know what? Fuck it. We're going to be including Pterosaur as well, despite the fact that he's from Golden Disc. Because what the hell were Hasbro even doing these last 2 waves? You can roll them all together and still not get a complete one. 4 figures in 4, 3 in 5, 2 of which being from Legacy, none of which being Beast Wars characters. Great job ending the Beast Wars line with a wave without Beast Wars characters, you hacks! Welcome back to What's the Best. What's the best Wave 4 and 5 Kingdom figure? And also Pterosaur. Also, man, is the wiki entry on these messed straight the hell up. Hot Rod from Wave 5 is listed in Wave 4. You could argue that's because there were no Wave 4 core class figures, but then why is Pipes from Wave 4 listed in Wave 5 with Slammer when he came out at the exact same time as Waspinator and Shadow Panther? Anyways, worst is obviously Hot Rod. Sorry for spoiling the video early, but I'm not spoiling it early. Normally I save conclusions like this for the end, but come on, this will never surprise anyone. This thing fails on every criteria. Accuracy to the classic interpretation of the character, not even close. Does it even look good? Hell no. It can't even score a neutral point here. It's nothing like it should be, and it looks like ass. Quality? You're joking, right? Paint is crap, it's hollow like you wouldn't believe, plastic is thin and breakable, joints are creaky and loose, it's missing details, and the sculpt is atrocious. Posability is some of the worst I've ever seen. The original Rat Trap figure from 25 years ago is significantly more posable, and it cost less at the time too. Transformation sucks. Something this small and this simple should not have this much of the Play-Doh factor and take this much time. And the alt mode at least looks a little like Hot Rod, but it needed a better sculpt, its colors are off, and it's missing key details like his auto badge. So why would I waste your time being like, does this get last place? I don't know. Next up, Shadow Panther. It's just Cheetor again, in a cool and edgy color scheme with a cool edgy head. Technically, this actually scores badly in the classic interpretation of the character, since in order to make this thing more interesting, they changed the head. But the only thing that we really have to compare this to is the original figures, and those figures always just had the normal Cheetor head. This was a cool choice, but ironically, it made it less accurate. So while I give it the check for the stylish factor, it doesn't get the check plus here. Posability is okay, slightly worse than the modern average because of the knees and feet. They just can't bend enough, and the feet, as always with Cheetors, are too small. Transformation is decent enough, though it has parts forming, and there's a peg that is pretty much guaranteed to break. And then the alt mode, that's usually the best feature on the Cheetor mold, is kind of undercut by this looking like an untextured model of Cheetor. The black is really unnatural. It looks cool enough, but it looks more like a video game model than a real animal. Then there's Waspinator. Big props this time on the look of this figure. Waspinator looks basically perfect. Of any of the figures in this WTB, he's probably going to take screen accuracy. And then posing is mostly fine, though it's a little clashy due to all the crap hanging off of him, and kind of frustrating because he doesn't like holding together, which I suppose you could argue is more screen accuracy in tactile form. Most of his limbs are on mushroom pegs, so while I would have preferred ball joints as those are a lot harder to damage by pulling them apart, at least this can be slatted like Waspinators are not wont to do, but everyone else sure does. Transformation is kind of ropey with this boy. Once again, suffering from the common Kingdom quirk where his tabs weren't thought through, so there's not much actually holding him together in his alt mode. And his alt mode isn't exactly the most accurate. That's not to say it's completely wrong, but the sculpt is going for a more realistic Wasp, while also having the completely wrong feature of a motorcycle engine just crammed into his thorax. I'm not going to give this a negative point, but it's not getting a positive one either. Pipes. I hate this thing. I really hate this figure. A lot of people get kind of frustrated with me on this one since I complain that it doesn't get enough paint when I'm someone who famously doesn't care about paint, and this still winds up looking exactly right since the animation model was really bland. But the simple fact of the matter is that they put next to no effort into this figure. They resculpted it, which was at least something, but what this is a retool of an already barely passable figure made out of very little material, it's incredibly hollow, the accessories are fewer and worse, the transformation was already bad, the alt mode is heavily flawed, bent in the middle like a banana, and then to top all of that off, there is almost no paint. They just did not try with this thing. The value is not here. They didn't put it into any inch of this figure. I also want to address why I put the backpack like this, where it sticks really far off of his spine, even though it's supposed to be down. The simple fact of the matter is, it's more accurate like this, even if it does look bad like this. If this thing is going to get any credit from me, it's going to get it for its accuracy. So I'm leaning into the accuracy at the expense of an oversized backpack. Pterosaur, yet another figure I'm just not a fan of. Pterosaur had no business being a retool of AirRaiser, and while that could have potentially worked out, they didn't put the effort into making it work out. The tail should have folded down to form his chest rather than that being a fake part, and that would have made every aspect of this thing better. It would have made the backpack smaller, it would have made the transformation more interesting, it would have given the alt mode someplace to slim down a bit, and the quality was also kind of shoddy too. I had to use some joint tightener on the feet because it was really difficult to get this guy to stand on his own since all he wanted to do was fall over from the weak shins. Plus, the pterodactyl mode is really ugly. It's awkward, it's inaccurate, it's mis-sculpted to hell and back and full of blemishes. It just looks bad in this mode. And I didn't even talk about the robot mode yet. You aren't gonna mistake this figure for a different character, it is distinctly him, yet also so very barely. His colors are wrong, he's half as swole as he should be. Backpack, I can't really hold against this thing, but it's not helping, and the sculpt really needed work. So yeah, the look isn't great here. It's not an eyesore, but then again, the overabundance of red does kind of hurt my eyes. Finally, the last deluxe is Slammer, who is kind of going to be doing badly in this ranking by default. He has a robot mode that can't be accurate to anything since he's never been a robot before. Kind of looks like an auto trooper, though honestly, if we did try to argue that's who he's trying to be, he'd go from scoring neutrally for not having anything to compare him to bad because of how off it would be from that. He's got all the classic weaponizer negatives, like a compromised build, and a transformation that's just the antithesis of fun, but the alt mode is quite nice. That part is at least accurate to what he's supposed to look like, and then obviously I'm not going to take the weaponizing into account, because none of the other figures are getting graded on that. Last two, jumping up to the Voyagers of the line, since there were no leaders in these two waves. Tigertron. For a figure that supposedly, finger quotes, won Best Figure of the Year, finger quotes, this is not going to be doing amazingly here. At least it's pretty accurate in the robot mode, and it does have better posing than anything else based on the Kingdom Cheetor, as well as being much bigger than its brethren. But it's got some real issues. Like, I just can't get past how awkward the shoulder line is, being mounted like a foot behind his head, making this look much less cool than it should. And while the transformation would be pretty good, it's marred by the lack of anything to do with the gun in alt mode. And the beast mode is kind of harmed by the realistic aesthetic more than most. Tigertron had a very distinct head that's completely missing here, and the realistic yellowing was a terrible idea. Sure, real tigers have this coloration, but it's ugly and gross, and I would have preferred if they just used this paint budget to make all the green on him the metallic colors. And lastly, there's Blasty, who, let's be real here, he's gonna win. This is the Cyclonus of the last two waves, the only figure that truly earns the title Micro Masterpiece here. He is not necessarily the best posing figure in this group, he is, however, the most accurate and by far the most well built. While Waspinator may have him by inches in the accuracy category, this has Waspinator by miles in the build and size. He's going to lose out on posability to most of the other figures as he doesn't really have any specialty joints, and the joints he does have are pretty average, but the transformation is easy and fun, and I think this might actually be the first figure to be scoring points on the alt mode, looking exactly like it should with basically no compromises. And it even holds together well, which among its competition is almost like cheating. You can't have a good alt mode that's accurate and also doesn't have any build problems, that's not fair. So, what's the best? As promised, Hot Rod is the worst. He's scoring negatively in almost every category. Accuracy, double negative. If we downgrade that to just looking good, still double negative. Quality, double negative. This thing is so bad it looks like a dollar store knockoff. Posability, double negative. This thing is worse than most dollar store knockoffs. Transformation, double negative. This thing is simple, breakable, unfun, squishy, and needlessly frustrating. Alt mode is its best feature, and it's just regular negative, rather than upside down check minus. It looks kind of like it should, and that's what this thing gets for its best grade. And don't tell me that I'm being unfair to this because it's a core class. Any of the other core class figures would be scoring higher than the next three figures on this list easily, and those are all deluxes. And core class Soundwave would be vying over the number 2 position, meaning the only thing that would absolutely be better than it is the Voyager figure 2 size classes above it that is a micro masterpiece. Core class can do better than this crap. Next is probably the only other completely obvious bottom tier choice, Pipes. He has one thing going for him, and that's check plus on accuracy. As boring as it looks, and as little effort as it took, he does look very much like he's supposed to. Outside of that, this thing borderline doesn't score any points. They put no effort and no value into this anywhere, the transformation is both too simple and too clashy, and the alt mode is more flawed than it should be. Now after that, most of these are actually in a pretty tight race, to the point where I did what I've never felt the need to before, and wrote down a spreadsheet of all the figures' scores, so I could determine what order all of this was in. And so next up is Pterosaur. It looks enough like him to be recognizable, but nowhere near like it jumped off the screen. Big ups on the posing though, this benefits immensely from being a retool of AirRaiser on that front, even if it's to the figure's detriment in other areas. However, this is one of the few figures I felt the need to touch up so it worked better due to the ankles. And I'll be honest, I've always hated the AirRaiser transformation. It doesn't do enough, and what it does do isn't fun. And then the alt mode is terrible. I legitimately don't understand how anyone can look past the myriad of flaws it has. Next up, surprisingly, is Shadow Panther. It's a cool-looking Cheetor clone with less value as a character. Any problem Cheetor had is present here, and it has a few new problems being kind of wrong, and the alt mode being sabotaged by its uncanny nature. Then, for all intents and purposes, kind of tied and interchangeable with this is Slammer. Both suffer from a lack of source material while still looking cool on their own. This poses better, that transforms better, there's more effort in the paint job here, but this is a lot more loose all over, and the alt mode is better. This is vaguely better, and that's the best way I can phrase that. Then somehow, Waspinator manages to claw his way to the number 3 slot. Like I said at the beginning of the video, he's one of the most accurate figures here. Even if he's too small, he's got more effort put into him than many of the other figures on this list. Outside of some kibble clashing, he has no faults in the posing, transformation is okay, beast mode is okay. And in this particular race, being okay across the board is a quick path to high placement. Then you got Tigertron, who edges out Waspinator by being slightly better than average in most categories. He's not as accurate as Waspinator, but he's still accurate. He's bigger and better built. He's got more posability than that figure, the most of any figure here honestly, but that just means that he has average limbs with double elbows. Transformation is fun, alt mode is solid. But obviously he's going to lose to Blaster. Blaster is tied for the most accuracy, he's got the best alt mode, he's got the best transformation, he's not failing on the posing front, and he's built the best out of any figure here. It wasn't even close. The gap between him and Tigertron is literally a 50% difference. So Kingdom Blaster is the best. Going to have to do a what's the best of the best Kingdom figure soon. And that's not half what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know, you know, what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So, if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please, share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.